What is up? How's it going? Welcome back to the YouTube channel for Peacefully Wired. My name is Matt, aka Peacefully Wired, and wanted to do a video about misconception about normal brain intrusive thoughts and OCD brain intrusive thoughts. Before I go any further, please like and subscribe, comment down below, let me know what you think about the content, and let me know what kind of content you'd like to see. So I did a video that it's not really the intrusive thoughts that you need to be concerned about or that you're concerned about. You are concerned about them, but it's not really what you're concerned about. What you're actually concerned about is the content of the thoughts and the beliefs that you have behind those thoughts, or behind the beliefs that you have behind the content, because OCD is a belief disorder. Okay. Is it a values disorder? No. Is it a thought disorder? No, it's a belief disorder. And the quicker you recognize that, the more you will be able to see OCD is in so many different parts of your life. It has nothing to do with your values. Values are usually something that pretty much stay in line. Beliefs are something that you can change, right? If you have a value, like say you value being someone who's anti-violence. You don't like violence, you don't want to be a violent person, and you don't want to see violence in the world, okay? That can be your values. I'm not a violent person. That's my values. But if you have OCD or not, and you have the belief that violence is straight up and down, black and white, rigid, bad, that's your belief about violence. It's bad. It's never good. It's never warranted. Violence across the board should never happen. If you have OCD, even if you don't have OCD, your intrusive thoughts are going to reflect that belief, right? So, especially if you have OCD, that's where you start getting thoughts of harming people. You've got your newborn child, thoughts of harming them. You've got your granddaughter, grandbaby, right? Grandson, thoughts of harming them. Intrusive thoughts come in, right? Somebody makes you angry, intrusive thoughts about hurting them. Right? You have a random intrusive thought about your spouse. You have a random intrusive thought about a friend, about a family member, whatever it is, right? If you have rigid beliefs about violence as it's a black and white, straight up and down, you can't veer off of into a gray area about it, that's what OCD is going to attack. It has nothing to do with your values about being a nonviolent person, because you can still be a nonviolent person and be able to break down a black and white belief like violence is bad, by, for example, understanding that there are people that commit violence who don't think that what they did was bad. Whether that be someone who just is a violent human being and thinks that's part of being a human, okay, and they just do violence, they beat people up all the time, maybe they're in gang culture. Okay, you grow up in a gang, it's definitely normal to be violent against other people, especially rival gangs, right? And it doesn't really matter if it's an innocent bystander. It doesn't matter. It's part of the life. So they don't necessarily think that it's wrong. Okay. And even if later in life they change and they decide, that behavior was not my best behavior, in that moment, in that time, they don't believe that it's right or wrong. Right. War, right? Soldiers go off to war. People are under the for lack of a better term, brainwashing that they're actually fighting for freedom, let's just say. So in the name of freedom, we've got people killing other people, right? That person over there is your enemy. Doesn't matter that they probably have a family, probably have kids, right? Something to go back to if they survive this. I'm going to kill them because they are a threat to my freedom in another country, right? Or if you have to defend yourself against somebody, right? Somebody's attacking you or your family, and you have to use violence to defend yourself. Okay. Would that be bad or considered wrong, right? You might think so, but then you might have somebody tell you like, hey, look, you did the right thing. You defended yourself. Now, if you have across the board, if you're a soldier, if you're in gang culture, right? If you are someone that defends yourself, if you have OCD, okay, and you think that, I guess we'll take the gang culture part out of that. Well, you could still use it, because you could have someone that could be conflicted about growing up in that culture, but they just are going along with what's around them, right? Same with Army, right? You got generations of people that have been in the Army, the Marines, the Navy, right? Military families, basically. And you might have someone along down the line that really doesn't want to do any of those things, and maybe thinks, violence is not the answer, not the way. But if they have OCD, okay, and they think that it's bad, okay, but somehow they're thrust into this situation. Same with defending yourself. You just had you had no other thing. In the heat of the moment, you're a human being. Your instincts for survival kicked in, and you ended up either hurting somebody, maybe taking somebody's life, right? If you believe it's rigidly black and white bad, then you're going to have some undue emotional distress about that. You're going to have guilt and shame that's going to last you for a long period of time. And if you have intrusive thoughts, if you have OCD, you're going to have a lot of intrusive thoughts about those things, those times in your life. And instead of having the normal amount of guilt and shame, right? If your belief was a little bit more flexible to where, look, I can understand in a time of war, somebody might believe this thing, or if you get drafted and you have no other choice, right? If you're back in the World War II, Vietnam days, right, where people actually got drafted and almost didn't have a choice to a certain extent. If you can't change that belief, a black and white belief that violence is bad, then you'll suffer. If you can learn to break it down and look, I had no choice. I have to have empathy for myself. I had no choice. I was sent out to war. I had no choice. I grew up in a gang culture. Essentially, I felt like I had no choice. I was a part of that, right? Somebody was attacking myself. Somebody was attacking my family. I felt like I had no choice but to do that in that moment. If you can't break it down and look at the belief in a more scientific, logical way, right? Not while you're having these intrusive thoughts. This is when you're not having intrusive thoughts. This is on paper. This is how you break down beliefs. But you'd have to break it down scientifically. There are people that hurt people that don't care whether, and they don't think it's good or bad, right? So you'd have to break down that belief that it's good or bad, and that violence is just violence. Violence can be a bad act, but it can also be an act that's not necessarily good, but some would deem necessary. So again, like if your idea or your belief about violence is that it's wrong across the board, black and white, it's never good. If you ever have to hurt somebody or be violent for whatever reason, we don't know you don't know what you're capable of until you're in that situation. You might think you're a nonviolent person. I never would hurt anybody. You don't know until your kids are back into a corner and someone's about to take their life. You don't know what you're capable of. Nobody knows what they would act like in certain situations. So the fact, and that's the fact of the matter, is you'll never be able to figure out what's going to happen in the future. And so your belief has to be more flexible if you don't want to have undue and unnecessary guilt and shame for the rest of your life. Someone who doesn't look at violence in a black and white way would have a initial baseline, just a normal, healthy feeling of guilt or shame for being violent against somebody, even if the situation was they were protecting themselves, right? You see it in you see even the remorse that like a UFC fighter has. I've seen it. I've seen, I think I see it more with girls, but I've seen the guys too. But I just watched a clip of a girl, knocking out the girl and then like didn't even like hesitate to turn her around and like choke her out at the same time. And the ref broke it up, and the girl that got, lost was like, she had no idea what, the look on her face, it's disturbing. That type of violence, like, if you're fighting for a living, I don't know what you're doing. I think it's ridiculous, but that's just my opinion. But anyways, you saw the girl that was the one who won approach her to a certain extent. And I was like, that's probably the more natural response is, oh my God, like I hurt this person, right? Even though I'm getting paid, I've trained to do it. We both step into this area where we're going to fight each other, and that's agreed upon with both of us. You could see like the remorse. I've gotten into fights with people before, and immediately, whether I lost or won, had regret after that fight, right? The animosity, the adrenaline, the anger, the intensity, like all that stuff is not a good feeling for me. But I digressed a little bit there, but I think that the healthy, like that's a healthy guilt or shame, right? Oh my gosh, what did I do? Even though I'm in the situation where I've signed up to do this, I feel a little bit of remorse. Even though someone came at me and was threatening my family, oh, maybe I took their life, and that could essentially give you some guilt and shame, right? But if you're very rigid about that belief, that's going to cause you essentially to have unhealthy guilt and shame. Oh my God, I'm a bad person now because I did that. Maybe I don't deserve now to be here anymore because of that, right? And not being able to shake that for either a long period of time or the rest of their life. And especially if you have OCD, that'll be something that you deal with forever, because that's a real event that you're never going to be able to be like, oh, I never did that. You actually did it. So, and that's why it's not about your values. You can be a person who doesn't like violence, but if you have black and white views of violence, if you're someone who values your relationship, but you have black and white views about relationships, you're going to have problems. If you're someone who values your sexuality, that's fine. But if you have a black and white view of being gay, potentially, you're going to have issues, right? If you have health OCD, right? You can value your health, but if you have a black and white conditional view about what your health is, and if you were unhealthy to any degree or had a terminal illness or lost a limb, right? Or lost your legs, or you became paralyzed, and it was black and white, I can't ever have those things happen. I always have to be intact. You would have issues, and it's about your beliefs. It's not about the values. The value of your health doesn't change. The belief has to change about the health. The belief has to change about violence. The belief has to change about sexuality. The belief has to change about relationships. It's not the values, and it's not the thoughts. The thoughts are just part of it. Okay, so I hope that clears some things up about OCD being a belief disorder, and how even if you are someone who has a normal brain, this stuff still applies. So if you're someone who black and white thinks violence is wrong and you hurt somebody, okay, for whatever reason, and if you are black and white about it, you will have intrusive thoughts about that. It's just like PTSD, right? You see people that go into war, they come back and they have a lot of issues with being in that atmosphere first and foremost, but maybe they've taken other people's lives and it's difficult for them to deal with. Okay. And so that belief for them would have to be broken down. Look, you'd have to have empathy. I was in the war. I signed up for that, or I got drafted. I had no choice. Or I signed up for it because I was sold a bill of goods that I'm supposed to go and do this thing. And that person who's just like me, essentially, but just lives in another part of the world, is now my enemy, right? You have to work on breaking those down. So it really applies to both normal thinking brains, right, and OCD brains. But at the end of the day, the beliefs have to be broken down, not the values. The values can stay. So, like I said, I hope that helps you kind of understand OCD as a belief disorder and how to look at beliefs versus values. And if you're interested in one-on-one coaching with me, support at peacefullywired.com. Go to my website, peacefullywired.com. You can learn more about working with me. And you can also join our Peacefully Wired OCD community through my website. And it is a community where other people are going to be. It's a private community. There's people there already watching the lessons, watching the videos, doing the homework, learning how to recover from OCD, and that can be you too. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.